Thank you for joining us. We have some real life people and some online people today. So we're in for a treat. We have Christina Fowler here. She is a registered dietitian. She is currently an inpatient dietitian here at BWMC, treating both adults and children. She started her career as a pediatric dietitian in North Carolina and started seeing adult patients when she moved to Maryland and started her family. She also worked as a home nutrition support dietitian for a home infusion company. And while not at work, she enjoys her family, friends, environmental restoration, and running. So thank you for joining us this evening. This is on fueling recovery, nutrition that heals. So hopefully you can get some really good information to help support your survivorship. I'm Lindsay Griffin. Chances are you spoke to me or emailed me to get registered for this. I'm the manager for cancer program accreditation. So if you're interested in learning about any other topics or future topics, please feel free to reach out. We are recording the session today, but we're just recording the slide presentation. So you won't be recorded or anything like that. And we'll stop recording before we do Q&A to protect everyone's privacy. So without further ado, I'll let our dietitian take it away.
As I said, my name is Christina Fowler, and I've been a dietitian at the main hospital for almost 10 years now. This talk is really try to be informal. It's kind of going over the guidelines that are in place. But at the end, I would love to open up the discussion about different ideas of how we can actually do the recommendations, because everyone has their own likes, dislikes, ability to follow these guidelines. So okay, so the objectives of my talk are basically what the guidelines for healthy eating after a cancer treatment is over, and how to move on to the rest of your life and be as healthy as possible. And then really just how do we as individuals apply these very general guidelines that are created for everyone, because it does need to be tailored for each person. The guidelines were put out by the American Institute of Cancer Research, and they do their own research, and then they also take a look of what everyone is doing throughout the world. So they kind of take a whole bunch of studies, they rate whether or not, so their recommendations come from many different sources. It's not just them. And they are a subdivision of the NIH. So these are the long guidelines. And so that, are you sending out like the copies of this webinar or something like that?
Yes, I can share copies.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So these are kind of the whole thing. And, I don't want to read every single one of them, but in general, be a healthy weight. So this is talking about, if you've lost weight during cancer and maybe a surgery, returning to a healthy weight is kind of a goal. Some people gain weight during surgery or during cancer treatments. That's a big problem for some that have this low-lying nausea and the continually eating. I kind of compare it to some of my patients. It's like morning sickness. If you eat a little bit, you can and keep something in your stomach. Sometimes that wards off nausea, and so some patients actually gain weight during treatment. Sometimes also they're less active, they're not doing the same things, they're making choices for convenience, which is totally appropriate during a cancer treatment. Being physically active, usually during treatment, things have changed drastically, so returning to a new normal is important. A diet rich in whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans. Being more of a plant-based diet seems to help the vast majority of people, the research indicates. Limiting intake of fast foods, processed foods that are high in fat, starches, and sugars. And when I say processed food, we're not talking about going to Giant and they already have, the baby carrots cut up nice for you. That doesn't count as a processed food. Sure, someone has made that convenient for you, but we're really talking about something that vastly isn't the same as what it came out of the ground or wherever it came from. So more highly processed foods. And again, during treatment, we recognize that convenience, most people's intake of processed foods will usually go up. And that's, again, completely expected and fine during treatment. We're trying to get you over the hump. Limit intake of red and processed meats. This is a big recommendation for colorectal cancer. It's based on a lot of population studies and just showing the more processed and red meat people have, the higher incidence of a lot of liver and colorectal cancers. Limit intake of sugary drinks, mainly because it's just a source of calories where they would rather your calories come from other foods that have other benefits to yourself. Limit alcohol. Excessive alcohol use has been linked to several cancers, and they do not recommend any specific supplements in particular. Now, if you have a deficiency and your care team has told you to take a particular one, that's completely different, but there are no supplements that, in general, recommendations that prevent cancers or prevent cancer reoccurrence. So on the internet, at the American Institute of Cancer Research, there is you have to kind of search for the healthy living tips, and then what they do is called the New American Plate Model. And they've tried to take all of these and really simplify this for the general population, because no one wants to look a long thing of things to do and not do. This is more of an idea of, if you can take the foods that you like and fill up a plate in these proportions, then you'll be following the guidelines. So 2/3 of the plate, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and 1/3 of the plate or less, your protein foods. So this is just a really bright example of what they're talking about. So you have meats, you have vegetables. There is actually no fruits on this, unless you get very specific. Peppers and I guess tomatoes are fruit, but not in the real world. So that is kind of an application. And of course, we would encourage you to, oh, I hate broccoli. You don't have to eat broccoli. You pick the vegetable that you like and make it work for you. So how do you do this? So also here on the Healthy 10 Challenge, they talk about each of these goals, and it takes you sign up. And I logged in and did all of this a couple of weeks ago, and it sets you up and it takes kind of a look of where you are now, where you want to go, and individualizes to a certain extent how to build your habits and accept the challenge, and you go in and it tailors more of a program for you. So it talks about little things. I've got people that are, either don't like fruits and vegetables, or very many of them, or just not in the habit for various reasons, because life is busy. You might have just had a very lengthy cancer treatment. You have little kids that you're running around. There's many, many reasons why you would not necessarily have a diet full of fruits and vegetables, because we all know they are a little bit more work. So the guideline, or the Healthy 10 Challenge, is over 10 weeks to gradually go. So, and not go, unless you're one of those people that can just go out and I'm going to eat 2 servings a day, I'm going to do this. It's very hard for most of us. So trying to take this in little chunks, they go through. So fruits and vegetables, the first step, 1 portion at each meal of either a fruit or a vegetable. And so the vast majority of us as Americans, we don't necessarily do that. So trying to just sneak them in any way. Maybe you do eat cereal in the morning, put some fruit on that cereal or eat it on the side. Or you're busy and you're on the road. So what I do is I try to grab an apple with my granola bar that's obviously processed on my way and eat that on the way to work. So everyone, I'm gonna say, it's like, it's something that is challenging for me to do also, and this is my job. So these are some of these tricks are how I've kind of trained myself to come close to some of these guidelines. Whole grains, just getting into the habit of trying to, if you do eat sandwiches, try to move towards the whole grain breads. If you're into hot cereals, move to some of the whole grain hot cereals. I'm constantly talking with my husband. He loves cream of wheat. Like, let's do some oatmeal. Let's do some other things. There's nothing really wrong with cream of wheat, but there's just none of that fiber anymore. So little things like that. Take what you like and try to find a little bit different version of it and go slow. Dairy and meat. Some people, this isn't a problem for most people. It's increasing the fruits and vegetables. There are a lot more options for low-fat dairy out there. If you don't enjoy milk, there's lots of plant-based milks out there. Just trying to reduce the fat that you consume in there can help with any excess weight. Now, this is also where I tell some of my patients, because I'm over in the hospital and I'm usually working with people that need to gain weight. So this is where I will say, try to use some of the higher fat versions of milks, because this is the easy way of getting some extra calories in. High calorie fruits and beverages. If this is, some people just don't drink soda, great. Some people drink it a lot. So just trying to see where you are, that you're not necessarily compliant with the guidelines. Beans and legumes. A lot of people, depending on your area where you grew up, some people never eat beans. We ate beans all the time growing up. So we were just talking with one of my friends who's a dietitian. She grew up in, I think in Maine. They didn't eat beans at all. It was not very popular. So, things like that. You just have to be kind of conscious and try, if you don't like one, try a different one. There's different ways of seasoning and incorporating them with other meals or in recipes. Soups is a good way. My kids will happily eat beans and soups, and that's probably one of the few places that they were open to that when they were young. And then physical activity is also part of it. And they just talk about getting out and moving. There's a lot of research out there, just physical activity, even just small things, walking in the woods, called nature drenching. It helps the mind as much as the body. So more tips, by meals. And I always think that breakfast is the easiest one for me to add, probably not vegetables, maybe vegetables, but fruit. It just seems to be, that's something that when I talk to people, they've had more success where, if you do like yogurt, taking you could buy a large container of yogurt. It helps with the prices, because the prices of those individual yogurts have skyrocketed in the last few years. Get a big thing, you scoop it out. What I do, because I eat my breakfast in my car, because I don't have the time. I thought, oh yeah, when my kids are in college, I'll have time to sit down and eat breakfast. No, I still don't sit down and eat breakfast, but I will scoop out, put it in smaller individual containers, make a point of doing that, throwing in some blueberries, nuts, etc., and having that all ready to go. And then I will I can't say I don't eat yogurt on the way to work, but I will eat that at work when I get there. Different snacks, a banana, apple, some of those things are very easy to eat on the go. Adding spinach, tomato, you know, it says omelet there. I do less omelets because I'm particularly lazy, and I'll just make a mash of everything. I just throw in some vegetables that I do like and I have it, and then I will put scrambled eggs on top of it. I guess it's more of a what they call frittata, but I was eating that for years before I knew what in the world it was. So it's basically an omelet with everything incorporated, and that's a way of kind of sneaking the vegetables in for me. Things to make it easy for you, because the average fruit and vegetable is not as easy to grab and go. And so if the grocery store makes it in a way that it makes it easier for you to eat, I'm not going to call that processed food. That is something that's helping you. The shelf life for when it's cut up in the store is going to be a lot less. But again, if you need to do that and you have the money to buy it pre-sliced, pre-packaged, and that's what you need to do to get some extra fruits and vegetables. Lunch and dinner ideas, they're about the same. And again, it's more just trying to sneak more vegetables with all the meals. I do a lot of the pre-meal kits because I got in the habit of those. I do HelloFresh the most. I think I've tried them all, and I keep on circling back to that one because that seems to please the most people in my family most often. But again, those meal kits, they don't give you very many vegetables. They might give you this much per person. So I've gotten in the habit of always having broccoli. That's something that most people in my family will eat. So we do broccoli way too many times a week than we probably should. But we have broccoli. We try to do roasted carrots is very popular in this. So if there is something else in the oven roasting, I try to roast whatever vegetable is in my thing. So I try to come up with different ways. And it's definitely a thought-filled process and something that I've had to kind of think about in pre-plan. Let's see. Snacks. I guess I could just click that. Snacks are important because I think this is where most of us, including me, fail because you're hungry. It's too many hours between meals, and snacks are so much easier to get something that is probably not going to fit with any of these guidelines. So thinking ahead is probably just going to be the best. There's lots of little things that you can do, but you know, if we're here having snacks, where am I going to go find some baby carrots or I mean, I have to plan this ahead of time. So a lot of these recommendations is just to kind of train you to be a little bit more thoughtful about taking care of yourself. So kind of, I've talked about this before, but like how I do the things. I do a lot of roasted vegetables. So right there, that's not a pretty picture that I've done, but that's what I do. I do a lot of those mixed, you know, trays of vegetables, what are in there, what's in my refrigerator. I try to, if there is a recipe, my daughter loves this chicken pot pie recipe. She's been obsessed with it since she was a little kid. And it calls for like a cup of frozen vegetables. We use the whole entire package of that. So any type of recipe that you might have, you know, try going up in the vegetables that you put in. Sometimes it might cook a little different and add a little bit more water and you reduce it, but you know, don't drastically change it all at once. But trying to sneak in some extra vegetables is really what I suggest. Let's see, process. And then when I say I go in and I stock my refrigerator, my husband and I both know what vegetables each other likes, what if our kids are back in town, what they will eat. So we'll go to the grocery store. If we see that on sale, on special, we just buy it. And that's what we try, even if it's not like on a menu, on a planned meal, not an ingredient we're going to specifically do. But we try to keep the things that are generally liked. Those are going to be carrots, green beans, broccoli, and cauliflower. Those are probably the generic things that we throw in and try to do at each of our meal times. Another way of doing it, and I can't say this is, my husband is better at this than I am. I am not a really big salad person because the salads I like take a lot of work, and that's just not what but he loves salad. He's willing to do that work, so he's the salad man. But he gets the lettuce, he prepares it, washes it, puts it back in there, so that makes it as easy as possible to make salads. We do a lot of different, like I like spinach salad with goat cheese and strawberries and nuts. So we both have the way that we do it, but making it as easy as possible and preparing it so that, because the last thing you may want to do at 6 o'clock after you've been working all day is sit there and chop up food and do all of this. So trying to do whatever shortcut you can do ahead of time makes it a little bit easier. So this is his answer. I'm the one that roasts the vegetables. If he's in charge of a meal, there's going to be a salad. And then if we're extra, so we do some of those the salad kits. We'll do some of those and then just have some grilled chicken and then slice it up and put that on there. So that's another one that's been a little bit hard to do because, again, if I'm in charge, that's not where I lean to. And those prepackaged salad kits don't keep as long as if you bought romaine lettuce. So it's not like something that you can go there, oh, they're on sale, and buy like 5 of them. It would never last at my house because it would go bad. So there's all these things. It's just trying to figure out what you, the rest of your family, whoever is living in your house will eat, and come up with some ideas of just always available and always keeping a lookout to see what specials that they might be having. Oh yeah, well, I've talked about that, the chicken pot pie and casseroles. We do a lot of baked ziti because, it's a big thing of pasta. It feeds a lot of people. It's fairly inexpensive. And then we try to throw in, he does a lot of spinach in there. I'll even do broccoli in there. So we just try to add things into all of the meals that we've been doing for years. If one meal, or say one meal plan, if I ever ask like, oh, what should I do? If I wanted to get a book, if I wanted to get, the Mediterranean diet follows all of the guidelines that is covered for cancer survivorship. And it is, I don't want to go into so much detail because it can be applied in different ways. And then what I suggest to you, if it's something that you're interested in, look at the cookbook before you buy it. You can do that sometimes. You can check it out of the library, even like on like a Kindle version of it, and take a look at it and make sure that it is one that has American spices and ingredients. Because I've bought a few Mediterranean cookbooks through the years where very few of them can be recreated in a regular grocery store. But certain ones, so the Mediterranean diet, when it's, I think it's called, there's a magazine that puts out healthy eating, and they've done a specific article, or not an article, but an issue for the Mediterranean diet. And things like that are made for the average person are a good place to start. So the recipes, the American Cancer Society and the American Institute of Cancer Research, both of them have a lot of recipes. And those ones are very user-friendly. They're very, you know, they don't require a lot of work, a lot of ingredients, and unlike the Mediterranean diet cookbooks. And again, they're not all created. I mean, I'm sure there are good ones out there, just as many good ones as ones that are a little bit more difficult. So budget-friendly tips, you know, so because everyone knows, you know, fruits and vegetables are going to be more expensive than, you know, just doing a spaghetti meal. That just adds another expense. Frozen canned foods can be less expensive. Not only are they less expensive to buy, but they keep better, and there's less likely of food waste. So canned foods can have more sodium, but there's plenty of options out there that are lower in sodium. They used to be more expensive to buy the low sodium, but now they're all pretty comparable. Frozen, especially berries. So if you wanted to cook, you know, make banana bread with blueberries in it, the frozen blueberries are, you can't taste the difference in a baked good. And putting in frozen berries also in yogurt is a good place too. They're a lot less than buying, like, you know, the little tiny plastic shells of raspberries. Stretching the meat. I mean, one of the guidelines is to eat less meat. So, you know, trying to make a meal, so say like with chili, you know, you can have meat in there, but it's a lot less than if you were having I don't know, a portion of that meat just by itself. And then using more beans as kind of a meat replacer, your protein they're just less money. We talked about that. You know, some of the ones that cost less are going to be harder to cook. So everyone it's been one of those things that's a trade-off. So, you know, you can buy a big giant bag of dried beans for not much money, but to prepare it, it's going to be soaking it overnight and then cooking it the next day. And that's just a very individual thing, you know, is to say time is money. So, you know, where are you in the continuum? You know, I know when I wasn't working and we had one income and 2 kids, but I had some time. I made a lot of things from scratch. I can't tell you the last time I've soaked beans overnight and cooked beans, but we do eat a lot of beans. So that's just one of those things where it has to be very individualized for a person. Canned seafood. So we do, you know, we will eat salmon. My favorite place to get it is at Trader Joe's. It's the least expensive and the tastiest one we've found. But again, it's not cheap. We eat a lot of like salmon cakes or salmon patties, or, you know, with the canned salmon. Recipes are right on the can, and we'll just pan fry that, and we'll do that as a meal. Eggs, you can use those in many different ways, like the frittatas, I say. And then yogurt. And again, large tubs instead of the individual cups is usually less expensive. Shopping in season, buying produce. Some of the grocery stores do carry local produce, and some of that is a lot less money than the other kinds. Going to farmers markets can be, some are more expensive and some are less expensive. We do have the market here that's every other week during the summer months that I guess it's across the street over there. That I think it's on Wednesdays. Do you guys have the times? Wednesdays from
Wednesday 10 to 12 or something.
10, yeah. And they sell low cost vegetables.
Like in this parking, so across the street where the executive building is, it's in that parking lot.
Yeah.
They have a little tent. morning stuff. Yeah, I think it's like maybe April
I want
to
to say it's April through October.
Yeah.
It's popular.
It's like in the warmer months.
And it's
Yeah.
cheap.
Wednesday.
Yeah, very cheap.
Very, very cheap.
Yeah, I spend like, I think I spent $8 max, and that's if I get like one of everything they have. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So Wednesday morning.
Yeah, Wednesday like
Yeah.
10 to 12, I think.
Yeah, it should start back up again in the spring. When I see a flyer, I'll make sure I send it to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's a
so-
good market.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so there's versions of that you just can get dialed in if you hear about. Other things, again, these are some ideas, I mean, all of these things require a little bit more preparation. And again, if you've just recently survived a cancer treatment and you may not be in the habit of doing a lot of these things for yourself. And it will be more difficult for those that do not enjoy cooking. And I completely understand that. I enjoy cooking. I don't enjoy planning, and I don't enjoy asking people what they want, but the chopping, the cooking, I enjoy. My husband hates it. It would be like the last thing in the world that would be comforting to him is to make a meal. So, but he has no problems eating, so we work together, and, but it's still taken us years together to incorporate all of these things. And, as your lives change, before, during, after cancer treatment, your needs are going to change and what you're able to do. And that's fine. So just trying to figure out how you can start applying these goals in a way that isn't taking away from the rest of your life is what I try to encourage. And I usually say, try to start with the increasing of fruits and vegetables and increasing of the exercise. If you're eating more of these vegetables, you're probably going to start eating less of the other things that are probably not as healthy for you. So I try to talk about or encourage people to do the things that are something that you can concretely add and count, a positive thing, rather than don't do this, don't do that. Other things, meal planning, like we talked, dried beans, these are kind of leftovers. Grow herbs. It's another thing. You can combine some of your other ideas if you enjoy gardening. Set yourself up with some herbs. It's starting in there. And springtime, it's just about time that we can start thinking about, and you could do some of them actually indoors. So something little like that. I would just say, trying to think of, I've done that. Basil and thyme and dill are the only ones I probably am both successful at and using. Because there's some things that I grow a lot of, but I don't use that much oregano, like at all. I have learned that. Sage is another thing. I have this giant plant in my backyard, and I probably use sage once a year. So, but there's, beauty in the sage plant, and boy, does it smell nice when you brush against it. So these are just examples we talked about before. Oatmeal with fruit. There's a lot of people really like the overnight oats. So if that's something that you do like, if you have that ability, you can get a container that with a lid, a good sealed lid, fill it all up. There's a million recipes. Basically, you're just taking oatmeal, the milk of your choice, and then I have toppings because I don't like the whole mushy texture in the morning. But I take it all with me, dump it in, and I'll eat it in the morning. Some people can't stand it cold. They'll heat it in the microwave in the morning. So that's just something that follows the guidelines and it really isn't difficult to do, but making the time to do it is going to be the difference. Lunch, dinner, we talked about some of these other ideas. And I talked about in the very beginning, the idea is some of this is really to return yourself to a healthy weight, whether or not you've need to gain the weight that you might have lost or lose a little bit. And you know, it's not that you have to be at this certain magical ideal body weight. It's more of a weight that you're comfortable with, and you can do the things that you want to do, and you have the strength to do the things that you want to do. And then exercise, because again, starting slow, but that will help both your appetite, if an appetite is a problem, and your mental health. And please try to remember, you know, this isn't something that you can go home. I mean, there's got to be some people out there like that, but I know I'm not. I can't go out there and just change everything at once. Make small changes, and once you're comfortable with that, try to make another change and just head in the right direction. And that's my biggest advice, is just don't do anything that you don't think you could do for the rest of your life. Don't make this change. I'll go home, I'm never going to have ice cream again. That's ridiculous. Of course, we're all going to go out and have ice cream again. Now, you may not want to have it, 7 days a week. Maybe just say, I'll have it 6 days a week. and maybe a goal is to have it like 3 times a week. But try not to do too many things that you're setting yourself for failure. And then if you go back and you have ice cream that next night, you might feel terrible about it, or not. So
Depends on the ice cream.
depends on the ice cream. You're right. Might be worth it.